Hello, class. Welcome to Science, Technology, and Society subject. So, our lecture for today highlights the historical antecedents of STS. So, this lesson, tackles how social contexts shaped or were shaped by S&T across three historical periods, and also by introducing the historical antecedents of S&T, you're going to explore the dynamic interactions between different societal factors alongside, of course, with a discussion of the historical antecedents during the ancient period, middle, and modern ages. This lecture also include discussions on important inventions and innovations, and it emphasizes on various social, cultural, economic, and political impacts of S&T all throughout the history, especially the S&T innovations. So the following are the lesson objectives for this topic. At the end of the lecture, you are expected to discuss the historical antecedents of science and technology across time, and explain how scientific and technological inventions shaped and were shaped by various social contexts. So let us define antecedents first para mas maging malinaw sa inyo ang topic na ito. So when we talk about antecedents, lagi kong naaalala, it's like a thing or event that existed before or parang logically precedes another event, something like that. So the definition of antecedents, it's written here or it's flashed here, is the precursor to the unfolding and existence of something. So lagi nung tandaan is yung word na precursor. Therefore, historical antecedents in science and technology are factors that pave the way for the presence of advanced and sophisticated science and technology innovations today. So knowledge in the history of S&T will definitely help you appraise the innovations today, and by understanding how previous generations influenced and were influenced by developments in S&T, yung generation nyo po nowadays can come up with the informed and improved decisions on the proper application of S&T sa ating daily life. So in the past lecture, we talked about the definition of science, technology, and society. Also, we tried to explain their connection to one another. So now, this lecture we will be tracing the developments of technology alongside science. And please do remember and take note that the lesson is presented primarily in chronological pattern. So we will have this glimpse of what STS looked like in different parts of the world during the ancient period, Middle Ages, and of course, modern times. So in each period, we will examine the social condition and technological experiences and innovations. So let us now dive in to the S&T in the ancient world. Let us start with the prehistoric period, yung Ice Age. So the prehistorians believed that the primitive man has this inferential knowledge. So before daw, yung primitive man must have conceived that the earth is flat based on the reasoning from their experiences in traveling the farthest parts of their migration. They must also have observed the changing of the seasons in connection to the shifting of the sun's position in the heavens. Now, as we all know, the movement of the sun, moon, and the stars must obviously have been among the earliest scientific observations. Also, yung ating primitive intelligence recognized fundamental distinction between living and non-living things. So, nakagawa na sila ng tacit classification of the natural objects. And then, in the practical field of medical knowledge, the primitive humans must have practiced instinctive therapeutics where they must have this elementary knowledge of toxicology that enabled them to avoid eating poisonous herbs, for example. So these are just some of the prehistoric ideas according to our prehistorians. And it would appear then that the superstructure of the latest science was founded using the knowledge and practices of the prehistoric man. Now, let's go to the problems that they have experienced during those times. Hindi lang basta nung prehistoric era, kasama na rin yung iba pang eras. So, first is the transportation. Next is communication, transportation and navigation, magkasama na. Security and protection, health, architecture and engineering, mass production, aesthetic, and record keeping. Napaka-significant sa kanila ng transportation during that time because people were trying to go to places and discover new horizons. They also traveled to search for food and find better place locations for their settlements. So, before, di ba, wala pa namang jeep, wala pa namang tricycle, talagang kailangan nila maglakad barefoot. So, mahirap yung transportation nila. At the same time, sa navigation naman po, it was very difficult for them to navigate unfamiliar areas because wala naman dating ways back then, di ba? And maps were also not that highly accurate, and also some roads were still unavailable. Nagkakaproblema din po sila sa communication kasi dati-rati wala naman ngang mga cellphone or kahit yung mga simpleng messages na kaya nating ipadala like yung mga sulat. Before pa to, yung pinakauna. And at the same time, there's no common language back then. Diba ngayon, we already have the English, Spanish, Mandarin. But in the past, it was very difficult for them to communicate. They need to create signals pa, like reflection, fire, or smoke to create signals to their home para makita ng tribe nila, especially if there are incoming dangers. Also, gumagamit din sila nitong mga pigeons as a carrier of communications so that they can deliver message as fast as they can. So, para mas medyo mabilis. Next is security and protections. Siyempre, before, nahihirapan pa silang gumawa ng weapons for their safety. Natuto na lang sila nung kailangan nila din ipagtanggol yung sarili nila. And due to the difficulty in mass production, it is also difficult to have weapons even in the sabihin nating Neolithic era para lang may pagtanggol nila yung kanilang nation. So, mahirap ang security and protection before. Next, health. Different diseases, illnesses, both natural and man-made, hampered the full potential of human beings. Kaya before, hindi pa overpopulated yung mga tao kasi hindi naman nila alam kung paano i-cure yung diseases nila, yung illnesses nila. So, given the predicament, S&T played a major role in the discovery of cures. Next, architecture and engineering. So, construction of bigger and stronger infrastructures to protect humans from attacks and natural disasters are now known as engineers.